Hello everyone, my name is Payne and today I want to talk about Mercenary Cup. If you're not familiar with what Mercenary Cup is, it is a independent tournament being hosted on the Victory Road Discord server as a part of a larger set of tournaments that they've been operating independent of the still formats. This format offers a lot of really intricate problem solving in terms of how we want to approach team building and how we approach the play of the games themselves. And I'm going to take a brief minute to go over how the format works, some of the restrictions in terms of team building. So we're going to go over identifying an early core and how to fill out building the rest of the team around that core, how to identify weaknesses, strengths, and how to figure out what we need to do with the remaining slots. So the format itself, we have two dedicated slots. The first slot being dedicated to either Kingdra, Charizard, Gyarados, or Altaria. The second slot being dedicated to either Scrafty, Sirfetch'd, Escavalier, or Mew. And then slots 3 to 6, we have Open Rain between any Ice, Psychic, Poison, or Ghost types. The ban list is fairly extensive, so we have Dark types banned, except for the Scrafty in slot 2, Grass types banned, Mythic banned except for the Mew in slot 2, and then some individual Pokemon bans in Hypno, Bronzong, Medicham, Alolan Raichu. And then we also have the fast move Charm banned. So you can use Pokemon that have access to Charm, you just can't play Charm. So already we see an incredibly compact format that's very, very complex. So in terms of identifying a strong core, just like any format, we're going to want to find Pokemon that have a lot of innate coverage with one another. Usually I like to find 3. That's how you can build a very strong, sturdy core and look to build off that. So we're going to want to find 3 Pokemon that offer a lot of raw power in this format, raw strength, good stat products, good matchup data that cover a lot of each other's weaknesses as well. So one of the easiest cores to early identify in this format is going to be Scrafty, Alolan Sandslash, and Alolan Marowak. These 3 Pokemon are just very strong in their own right. They're very powerful even without the individual synergy, but they do offer a lot of coverage to each other's weaknesses. As far as movesets go on Scrafty and Alolan Marowak, I've opted for Counter and Hex. These can be interchangeable depending on how you round out the rest of your format. But from what I've seen and what I can identify in the format, I do believe that these are the strongest options to go. So in terms of weaknesses that do exist to this core, because we've opted to go for counter on Scrafty, we are a little more vulnerable to some of the Glass Cannon ghost types like Haunter and Gengar. So we're going to want to use slot 4 to hopefully shore up that weakness. And then slots 5 and 6 are going to be where the format gets really intricate and really complicated in terms of how we want to fill those slots out. So depending on what we do with our slot 4 and depending on where we want to make sure that we're not doubling up on any weaknesses and where we want to try to exploit maybe other people's team building flaws, we'll use for slots 5 and 6. So slot 4, like I said, I've wanted to dedicate this specifically to help us out with some of the glassy ghost types that might be running around. There are 3 ways that we can do this. We can use Confusion User. Despite some of the best ones being banned, we still have some leftovers that are just okay. We can utilize Alolan Ninetales using Powder Snow to fast charge Psyshocks, and we can use Gyarados with Crunch and Dragon Breath just being a fairly oppressive fast move. So typically, these confusion users, in terms of their value as individual Pokemon, they're not great. They do have more losing matchups against what we can expect to run into the meta than when they do winning matchups. However, they do solve the problem of Gengar Haunter fairly effectively. Confusion is a very oppressive move for some of those glass type ghost Pokemon. So if we want to just have a specific slot dedicated to making sure we have answers to that exploitable weakness from our early core, Gallade, Uxie, and Slowking can be great options for that. Uxie and Slowking also adding some extra coverage in Fire and Electric type that you can't really find anywhere else in the format. We could take a look at something like Alolan Ninetales, who offers a lot of extra coverage against potential dragon types like Kingdra and Altaria with Powder Snow and fast charging Psyshocks. It can still deal with the Haunters and the Gengars, but it does open us up to a potentially exploitable weakness into Jellicent, Charizard, something along those lines. We can take a look at Gyarados. That gets our Dragon tax out of the way bright and early, so we can look at being more flexible with our remaining slots. He does still offer a lot of coverage into the ghost types that we're looking to counter with our fourth slot. However, it does demand shields. If you are playing Gyarados, you're generally going to want to make sure that you do have the shields for it. Otherwise, it does lose some of its luster in terms of being that ghost type coverage, because we do need to make sure that we can get multiple crunches off. So for the first team building exercise, I'm going to go ahead and lock in the Gyarados. It gets the dragon tax paid out of the way, and then it opens up some of the complexities of team building for the rest of the format. So for slot 5 and 6, this is where the doors really open up in terms of how we want to round off this core. We've got a ton of options. We can add extra bulk, we can add extra pressure, ground coverage, fire coverage, depending on what we expect that we might see and what we want to make sure that we're not weak to. So starting off left to right, we've got some of the bulky ice coverage type Pokemon available in Lapras, Dugong, and Dusclops. These Pokemon give us some extra Pokemon we can safe swap into to make up for the fairly fragile core that we've got going on right now, amplified already by Gyarados. We can add something like a Frostlass to help apply extra pressure to any flying Pokemon that might be running around. Golbat, it's really good into Nidoqueen, really good into Altaria. We can add some extra bulk and additional psychic type coverage in Cresselia, some utility in Bubble Beam Jellicent. Jellicent is an early problem in this format because there's not a lot of very effective things that can deal with it, and you can utilize baits with Bubble Beam very effectively as well. We've got ground coverage in terms of Golurk and Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is going to be the better Pokemon in a vacuum. Golurk's fairly fragile and also demands shields, but having access to a ground type fast move in this format can be something that's very useful. We've got some extra fire type coverage. Again, Charizard and Chandelure. Charizard's going to be the better Pokemon in a vacuum. However, the way that the limitations work for our slot 1, if we want to utilize the Charizard, we can't utilize the Gyarados, so Chandelure could be an option for fast move fire coverage. We've got our Nada Dragons. These are typically utilized in the slot 1 to help counter potential Altaria, and Kingdras, or we can just slam Altaria, get some extra bulk, some Dragon Breath spam, some Sky Attacks. You know how that Pokemon works. So everything said and done, generally with this core, what we've got so far with Gyarados, I would like to make sure that we have something extra for Mew, which is a Pokemon that I expect that we're going to run into quite a bit. And then I want to try to make sure that we've got some extra coverage for Poison type Pokemon, as that's a fairly exploitable weakness right now as well. We're fairly weak to Seviper, we're fairly weak to Golbat, and even potentially Nidoqueen as well. So there are a couple different ways that we can use these Pokemon to shore it up, and I'm going to take a look at a couple different slot 5 and 6s here and sort of explain some of my decision making behind them. So the first way that we can round this out is with Dugong and with Cresselia. While we are weaker to dedicated poison type like that Seviper, like the Golbat, like the Beedrill, we get a little bit of Golbat coverage with Dugong, but the point remains. We do have a very fluid team into a lot of the expected metagames. So we can generally approach a match where we have an opponent who's bringing something like a Seviper. We can know that we're going to see it. It's a bit predictable. We can just make sure that we can line up the Pokemon respectively. But this team, there's not a lot of type-based holes that you can pop into it. It's got a lot of bulk, it's got a lot of power in our innate core, and then we can just look at slotting out, Sandslash with Dugong. We can look at slot outs Scrafty with Cresselia, depending on what the opponents are bringing. The second demonstration I've got here is using Jellicent and Golurk. Golurk, despite being a pretty weak Pokemon, we have a lot of bulk in sense of Jellicent and Alolan Marowak, where we can juggle how we want to use our shields, whether we want to use them for Gyarados, whether we want to use them for Golurk, and Golurk is a great way to close out a lot of those poison type weaknesses that the early core had. Our third slot is eschewing the early Gyarados pick for the Ninetales pick, so that we can double up on Ice. We can double up on Powder Snow Spam. We utilize Charizard here for Fire Spin to help pop holes into opponents that are looking at using double type Ice as well. and Lapras is there to give us some extra bulk. A team like this is also really strong into some, fringe archetypes that might pop up. People trying to utilize double steel or anything of the sort. But if anything, I hope that this demonstration really prove the point on how difficult a format like this can be to approach and to build. It's very early because there's only one practice tournament that got fired off. We're really just spitting theory here. So I hope you liked the video. If you want to check out this format, if you want to get involved with the tournament, the Discord link will be in the description below. If you liked the video, feel free to let me know. Give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, give me anything. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs up, but don't comment. Anyways, thanks for checking it out. Take care.